Was it any specific moment or any particular experience that motivated you or made you to start being passionate or standing and
Yes,
fighting for him?
yes.
So what was that experience for you?
When they started spitting on us in the street.
If you could briefly describe for our audience, what does it mean to be an accompanied minor refugee? Why do they call it unaccompanied?
So we had almost 2,000 unaccompanied minors, 1,988 to be exact.
In total, in the whole country?
In total, in the whole country.
This used to be an official narrative, especially because of the living condition for refugees that was very bad in 2015, 16, 17 and onwards. I wonder how the situation has evolved for minors. What was wrong and what has been fixed?
I'm really getting a little bit tired of this type of campaigns of these poor children. And what scares me is that the percentage of girls has increased, because people look at the statistics and they see that they say that only 16% of unaccompanied minors are girls. For me, this is tragic, because when we started in 2020, the percentage was 6 to 7. So you can imagine that in 4 years, 7% became 16, which means that we are doing something wrong.
What does this mean for you?
It's an insult to human race. When a child sees a camera and thinks that it is a weapon, there is definitely something wrong with what we are doing.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Untold podcast. In today's podcast, I'm pleased to have with me Dr. Gelly Aroni, head of the Integration Support Unit for Unaccompanied Minors here in Greece. In this podcast, we will discuss about Gelly's personal life and professional, with a specific focus on the situation of refugees, unaccompanied refugees, minor here in Greece. Dr. Gelly, thank you very much for being here.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. How are you? How did you start your day today?
It was the start of a busy week, as it is always the case when returning from vacation. So after Easter vacation and a very good rest, things are picking up, starting today.
Very good, amazing. For our audience that they're not maybe familiar with the type of work that you do, if you could briefly describe what does it mean to be head of the Integration Support Unit for Unaccompanied Minors?
Okay, I will give you a bit of the history. We are 4 years old. We are a state entity, a governmental entity that was established in 2020. And we were then a special secretariat for the protection of unaccompanied minors, because the situation was that we had thousands of unaccompanied minors in safe zones and safe areas all over Greece. And in order to protect them and create a protection mechanism, the General Secretariat for their protection was established. And what we did is that we created an accommodation scheme. We took all unaccompanied minors from accommodation centers, and we placed them in long-term accommodation facilities that we call shelters. And also a little bit older one, the 16 plus years old, they can stay in semi-independent apartments. So first we created the accommodation scheme, then which is one unit that deals with accommodation requests. At the same time, we have a unit that evaluates these shelters and these apartments. They go auditing, so they see the quality of the services provided. Then we have institutional support, which deals with all their legal matters and amendments that needs to be done for their protection. And also there is the unit that I have the pleasure of being the head of, which is the unit of integration and support. And what we do is that after they are placed, safely placed, and the basic needs are taken care of, we take care of their smooth integration, starting with education. We make sure that we cooperate with Ministry of Education, and we have places at schools. We work very close with formal education. We also work with non-formal education for support, for homework support. But we also work with other different types of integration activities, like we work with sports, we work with culture, anything that provides them the opportunity to interact with their Greek peers. And the fourth pillar is their job preparedness, because a lot of them, actually the majority of them, are towards their aging out. So we also take care of the preparation for their transition to adulthood. And last but not least, 2 years ago, we had the establishment of the national response mechanism, which is actually a tracing mechanism for kids that live in precarious conditions or are homeless, to trace them, find them, register them, and put them into the long-term accommodation scheme. So it is an entity that deals with all the aspects of the lives of unaccompanied minors. And I said ex-special secretariat because last summer, they, with a new law, we became general secretariat for vulnerable people and institutional protection. So there will be another mandate that has not been launched yet.
I see. Amazing. It's very interesting that what you do, very important, and of course I understand very challenging what you do. But before we get to into details of your work, I would like to, if you could briefly give us a background about yourself. If you could tell us where are you from, where were you born, where did you go to school, just an overall information.
Okay. I was born and brought up in Athens, and I went to the public school of my neighborhood. I had an amazing, incredible childhood because I lived through a time that we played outdoors. And so I grew up with playing. I grew up being outside, which is, I think, very weird for new generations. So because I played a lot and because I loved physical activity, I was in a very young age, I started sports. And it was volleyball that won my heart at the end. So I started playing volleyball since I was 14 years old. I played for my regional team, which is in Iliopoli, but I was fortunate to be good enough to play for the national team.
Amazing.
And which is... it's something that defines your life in many ways. In the way you have self-discipline, in the way that you have to set goals and you have to work hard to achieve your goals, in a way that you learn to play in a team and with a team. So I believe that sports was my real school. And because I was a very good player, I was grateful that I got the opportunity to have a scholarship after I graduated university to do my master's in the United States, in New York, which was something really strange for that time. To give you an example of what I mean, when I first went to New York to enroll to the university, I didn't come back to Greece for 8 months because it was very difficult, it was very expensive, and we used to write letters to my parents and my sister and my friends. And I think this is when I started being more aware of migration and of refugees. I think it was back in New York. We're talking about 1990, which is 34 years ago, that I started looking at the variety of human race, because Greece at that time was very homogeneous. So being in New York was an eye-opener for me. And I started looking around. I had an amazing experience because I played for a volleyball team and I was the only white person.
Okay.
So that was really interesting because it was like I was colorblind. It was other people that pointed out to the fact that I was the only white in the team. For me, okay, we were volleyball players. I did not see color. And I fell in love with a black guy. And many times when I do speeches and I give lectures in high schools and everything, and kids ask me, well, were you always an activist and you are such a nice person? I said, no, I just fell in love. It's not that we were not always born this way. It just needs something to get you started. And then people looked weird at an interracial couple, both white and black people. So that gets you into another mode of thinking. And I started taking peace education courses and anti-racist education, which was something very prominent that time in New York.
I see.
And this is why when I came back, I seeked and I found that I could work in an intercultural school and use all the knowledge and all the skills and the mindset, more importantly, in working with migrant students.
I see. You mentioned about that because of you fall in love with the person. Was it any specific moment or any particular experience that motivated you or made you to start being passionate or standing and fighting for him? So what was that experience for you?
When they started spitting on us in the street. I think
in New York.
In New York, yes.
Wow.
And it was the first person who spat on us was a black guy. And I think he was really upset that he saw another black guy dating a white woman. I think he felt it was insulting. So I think that spit was what got me into thinking, because I found the reaction profoundly, not insulting, but surprising. Yes. I was surprised. I never ever expected that somebody would care about the color of my partner and would create such an emotion that would result in publicly spitting. It was my first incident. Then I got spat here in Greece a couple of years afterwards.
Wow.
But for different reasons, with migrants again. But for different reasons.
What was that, if you could briefly point out?
I was a sports teacher in an intercultural school, so I worked with migrants and refugee students all my professional life. And in Greece, we still have the parades. When we celebrate Independence Days, we have parades. And my school had all different colors. We had kids from more than 30 something countries, and all shades of human color. And of course, this was very evident in the parade. And some people did not like it because at that year, it was one of my African students that was holding the flag and was really proud of holding the Greek flag, but somebody from the Greek audience did not like the fact. And again, it was early times when people were not so familiar with the sight of somebody else other than a typical Greek holding the flag. And I got spat when I was escorting the kids. But I was happy that I got it and not my student.
Wow. I want to ask you, what does this do with your mental health, with your psychology, with your belief system, when you see that people, they spit on you because of that you were with a colored person?
It means that we have to work. It means that we have to try to understand the reasons behind it. We need to understand what triggers the emotion, what triggers the response, and how we can work to change this. Because I am not such a romantic to believe that everybody will change their mindsets and everybody will behave in a certain way, but at least they will be able to show respect, even if they do not like a person. There are many things that I do not like. There are many people that I dislike. And this is what I used to tell to my students also. I said, I do not require from you to become friends. Friends are very special people that we choose to include in our personal space.
Yeah.
But we need to respect each other. So we need to learn how to control our responses in the way we feel. I don't say get rid of the emotions, but we need to channel these emotions in civilized ways.
Yeah. You said that we need to work harder to be able to address and resolve these issues. And I suppose that's why this whole experience has led you to the position that you have now. And as a head of the integration support for units for unaccompanied minors, for the audience, I would like to discuss about the overall situation of refugees and minors here in Greece at this point. If you could briefly describe for our audience, what does it mean to be an accompanied minor refugee? Who are they? Why do they call it unaccompanied?
Because they are minors, which means that they are children, which means that they are less than 18 years old. And it means that they come here unaccompanied by their parents. So nobody accompanies them during their journey from their countries of origin. These are children that they make the journey through Europe without any adult accompanying them. And it is terrifying, it is brutal, it is inhumane, and it shouldn't be happening. And what scares me is that the percentage of girls has increased, because people look at the statistics and they see that they say that only 16% of unaccompanied minors are girls. For me, this is tragic because when we started in 2020, the percentage was 6 to 7. So you can imagine that in 4 years, 7% became 16, which means that we are doing something wrong with girls and women in countries that people flee
the countries.
from.
Talking about the statistics, if you could give us a general information about how many unaccompanied minors are at the moment in Greece, and where are these people from majority? And
at this moment in May, I have to say that we have become better in keeping statistics, which has always been one of the challenges that we did not have statistics. Now that we have created this accommodation scheme, it is easy to keep the statistics, and every first day of every month, we publish the statistics. So I will give you the statistics of May 1st, and they are available at the website of the Ministry of Migration and Asylum for everyone to see, both in Greek and in English. So we had almost 2,000 unaccompanied minors, 1,988 to be exact.
In total, in the whole country?
In total, in the whole country, that are leaving under our protection network. Why do I say this? These kids live in 64 shelters that are spread all around Greece. We have 64 shelters for unaccompanied minors. And we also have SILs, the semi-independent living apartments for the older ones. There are 59 at this point. The main difference is that in shelters, kids live together in numbers that range from 30 to 40. But in apartments, we only have 4 because we want them to become independent. We want to work with their skills for autonomy. We want them not to have 24-hour staff supporting them and providing all the services, from buying food to cooking food to doing laundry and everything. So both SILs, apartments, and shelters are spread all around Greece. They are operated by NGOs or by international organizations. IOM, for example, runs also shelters, and also municipalities. We also have the municipality up in Kozani and another in Crete. But the problem is that there are a lot of unaccompanied minors that still live in precarious situations and conditions.
What does that mean exactly?
It means that when they come, people from their countries of origin take them to stay with them in order to work in the black market. And when kids are coming and they are in need of money, they are in need of sending money back to the parents and the siblings and the families that are left behind in the countries of origin, and they are at the age of 17. Sometimes they opt not to stay under our protection because they know that if you get into our protection system, then you are treated as a minor, and you will be required to have a schedule in your day, to go to school in the morning, to do your homework. But these kids, some of them are illiterate in their own language, or they have school disturbances throughout the journey. So it's very difficult for a 17-year-old that has made the journey for 1 year and has been in and out of different systems to go to school and to live under a certain curfew.
Do you think it's also like a trust issue for minors, especially for what you said, that they go through all these countries, they go through the systems, Would you say that?
It is. And not only a trust issue, but also let me remind you that for many of these unaccompanied minors, Greece is still considered a transit country. So, and if we also consider that Greek is not a widely spoken language, it's not English, so they do not see why they should invest in learning Greek if they do not intend on living in Greece. And but on the other hand, we are so worried that these kids can get exploited. These kids can become victims of trafficking, of sexual exploitation, of labor exploitation, that we created this national emergency NERM, as we call it, response mechanism, that traces kids that are either homeless or in precarious conditions, because many times kids realize that it's not very safe to live with adults that take advantage of them, and many times they flee and they are homeless, and there wasn't any mechanism to take care of these kids. Now with this mechanism, there is a tracing line, there are info desks, and there are also mobile units. So there are trained professionals out there that can take care of kids, and kids can make the call themselves, adults can make calls themselves. There is a telephone line running 24 hours in many different languages, and has accepted more than 4,000 calls throughout these 2 years of existence. We were recently, it was awarded as one of the best European practices for child protection.
Currently, neither Greece nor Europe is facing the influx of refugees, as this used to be an official narrative, especially because of the living condition for refugees that was very bad in 2015, 16, 17, and onwards. I wonder how the situation has evolved for minors. What was wrong and what has been fixed?
I think that I don't know if it is a matter of wrong and right. I think it was a matter of when things happens fast and you have something unprecedented that you had never faced before. That was the first emergency phase, and we had this emergency response at the end, and islands became overcrowded because it was there that all the processes needed to be done before refugees were moved in mainland. I think one of the landmarks for us, for unaccompanied minors, was the fire in Moria. In September 2020, we had two things that happened in 2020 at the end, the last months. First, the fire. The fire, I think, made the processes very fast. It was something that it was decided, and the Special Secretariat was actually in its first months of existence. And when the Moria fire started, I still remember the ex and first Special Secretary, Miss Irini Agapidaki, how fast her response was to take care and evacuate the center from unaccompanied minors. We took them in a matter of days. And this had a domino effect because we followed with the rest of the islands and also the mainland accommodation centers, and we placed them in the shelters. So it was, of course, it was a process that took months, but we did it. And another thing that happened in December 2020, there was the abolishment of protective detention, protective custody, because with the great influx, when there was not enough space, we had unaccompanied minors in police stations to protect them, to get them out of the street. This was also abolished as a measure, and we also evacuated police stations from unaccompanied minors.
Does it mean that they were detained, that they were in the police stations, or
there was detained in a sense for their own good, instead of sleeping in accommodation centers or outside in the streets. Some of them were protected there, which was abolished. So I think 2020, with the establishment of the ex-special secretariat, there was a turning point in the protection system of unaccompanied minors. And I think, although there are a lot of challenges and a lot of difficulties and a lot of issues to be dealt with, I think during these 4 years of our existence, there have been amazing advancements in the context of child protection, especially the most vulnerable children that are the ones that are lacking their family and the adult support.
Yeah. If you could briefly point out if they have the opportunity or the access and also the possibility of applying for family reunification to bring their families, join them.
They cannot bring their families. They can go to where their families are. And this is why we have the National Dublin Unit in the Ministry of Migration and Asylum. And this is exactly the mandate of that unit. Any unaccompanied minor that has a relative in another European country can make a request, and the process starts. And you have to have the kid's request and the formal consent sent to the European country where the relative lives, get the consent of the relative there, and then the process is
how long
on its way.
Would it take this process, and how efficient it is, this process?
I have no idea, because this is completely another unit. So I am not aware of their statistics and the work they do. But I see it happen. I see it happening, and I know that there are a lot of children that are applying for family reunification. It depends on the country. It depends on the relative and how close the relative is, because if it is not immediate family, a father or a mother or a sibling, I know that there are extra interview questions about the conditions, about even how many rooms the accommodation where the relative lives has, and so on and so forth.
I see.
But that would be interesting to have an interview with somebody from the Dublin unit.
Yeah. I would like to at this point discuss about the safety of unaccompanied minors, which specifically I would like if you could describe how is the cooperation of your unit with the Greek government, especially with the asylum office. How do you cooperate, specifically when it comes to accessing for asylum and getting accepted? Because I found the data that was released by Save the Children in 2023. About 3,000 refugee asylum requests by minors or children were submitted, but only 981 were accepted. So how do you ensure, because when they're not accepted and when they don't have minors, when they don't have their legal documents, they could be in the risk of abuse, various abuse. So how do you ensure that?
First, no matter what the asylum process and decision is nobody can touch a minor while he or she is still a minor. So it does not mean that if somebody gets a rejection that they will have to leave the shelter. This is something completely independent. We do not work together with the asylum service in the sense that the cases of unaccompanied minors go to the regional asylum offices all over Greece. And when I was talking at the beginning about the services provided in the shelters and in the semi-independent living apartments, they do have staff, they do have legal advisors that work with unaccompanied minors, and they are the ones that go with the minors to the regional asylum offices. They are the ones that take care of the children. We centrally in the Ministry of Migration, we do not have access to the individual cases, but we do make sure that no minor, regardless of the decision, is left unprotected. The issue in the same report of Save the Children, and this is something that we also know from study visits and from conferences and seminars we have with other countries, the issue and the recommendation made also at the end of this report is that we should work towards a residency permit that would allow the unaccompanied minor sometime to be able to complete vocational training or school. And this is something that we did not do. But we had the first change with the migration code, and especially the Article 161, with the possibility of a provision of a 10-year residency permit for an unaccompanied minor that has completed 3 years of secondary education. We did this, but we saw that many minors did not have the time to fulfill this requirement, this educational requirement, because when you arrive at 16 or 17 and you get rejected, like you say, at the age of 18, you cannot remain in the country and finish school, even if you have started it and enrolled and be good at it. So what we are trying to do now is an amendment of this that would give unaccompanied minors 3-year residency permit from 18 that they reach adulthood to 21 with no educational requirement. So this is what we are now have proposed for an amendment, and this is what we are really hoping for. Because then, if you are given 3 years, then you will have the incentive of the minor to stay in school, to learn Greek, because he or she will know that if he uses this time until the age of 21 to complete a course in secondary education, then he can apply for a 10-year residency permit.
Okay.
So I think we are in the right direction, because there is a challenge in numbers.
I see. Thank you so much, Gelly. At this point, I would like to show you some images, and I want to have your immediate reactions on those. The first image, it was taken by Nadan Abu Shaban, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, on March 2015. It's a Syrian girl in a refugee camp. And then when the photographer went to take her picture, she thought that it's a weapon, and then she raised her hand. As someone that you work with minors, so what does this mean for you?
It's an insult to human race when a child sees a camera and thinks that it is a weapon. There is definitely something wrong with what we are doing. It's shocking.
This is another image that it was taken in 2015. Again, a Kurdish kid that was drowned at the Turkey shore, and that he was drowned with his brother and the mother.
You know what my problem is? I have seen this picture. I have used it as a slide in a lot of my work, because a lot of the work in the unit for integration has to deal with the local communities, because integration is a two-way process. So when we talk about refugee education, we need to educate the Greeks as well. We need to educate native citizens of a country if we want integration to be successful and sustainable. So I have used this. My problem is that we see this picture, they are shocking, we never reflect, and we never remember them. And I always wonder, why doesn't memory prevent repetition? This is the shocking thing, that we see this picture, it is shocking for a couple of seconds, and then we forget. This is what really worries me in pictures like this, that shock is very, very short-lived nowadays, and we have become familiar with it.
Yeah. This is another image that I would like to show you. Somalian refugees, and also based on the United Nations data, around 40% of refugees are minors and children. And this was a campaign by United Nations to show about unaccompanied minors, that they lose their parents and they don't see them.
Does it work? It is part of a campaign, but I don't know if campaigns work anymore, and if producing sadness and pity does anything to it, because it recreates the narration of a victim. Oh, these poor kids, they are victims, and we should treat them nicely. And it takes away the narration of what is actually happening and what we are allowing as societies to happen. I'm really getting a little bit tired of this type of campaigns, of these poor children. I was brought up in an era that a famine was the problem in Africa. Mm-hmm. And after a while, we got so used to the images of the poor, hungry kids that it wasn't even shocking. I think the overexposure of this thing makes it so familiar that does not push us to action. And we need different action. We need different political narratives for people to actually do something, instead of looking at the campaigns, feeling sorry for the poor kids. I'd rather people feel angry for adults that create vulnerable conditions for the children, instead of feeling sorry for vulnerable children. Children are not vulnerable. I think adults create and allow vulnerable conditions. And it happens both in war-afflicted countries as well as in peaceful countries. Look at trafficking, for example,
Yes.
and child labor, for example, that happens in countries that live in peace.
Gelly, thank you very much. And I know that these topics are always very emotional, and there's never enough time to talk about this. As we are almost towards the end of the interview, I would like to ask you a couple of questions, and I would appreciate if you could answer them as brief as possible, and you can. Since the World War II, now more people have become refugees and displaced. What does this tell about humanity and the world?
That does not have a good memory, and that we do not reflect, because I read somewhere, and I liked it, that people do not learn from their mistakes. People learn when they reflect on their mistakes. And I don't think that we take time to reflect on what is happening. We don't take time to reflect on our everyday practices. We never have time to find a quiet time throughout the day and think of, did I do what I was meant to do today? Did I do it in a correct way? Should I have done it otherwise? Was there something that I did not think of? We just do without reflecting.
Definitely.
And I think this is why we repeat the same mistakes.
How satisfied are you with the work of your unit?
If I say I am very satisfied, maybe it will prevent us from working more. But if I say that I am not, I would be ungrateful to the amazing work that my colleagues do, not just in my unit, but in General Secretariat in general.
If you had a superpower and that you could change anything in the world, what would be the three things that you would change immediately?
I would have more women in power. Maybe I am influenced by an exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art. Mm-hmm. That is currently on exhibition, and it's what if women ruled the world. I want to believe, I don't know, I want to believe that things could have been a little bit more humane. And the second thing, I would have liked the active participation of children in decisions that affect their lives. I am tired of listening that the children are the future of the world. Children are the present also. So it is not us preparing future citizens. They are people that represent the present, and they should be more active in the decisions that we adults make and take for them. So this is what I think that I would do. And if I really, really had a superpower, I would do a more fair wealth distribution. So
that's a good one. I
things
like that.
would be more just in countries as well as people. You know, sometimes I dream, it's funny that you asked me this, because sometimes I dream that there should be a cut. If people had more than, let's say, €500,000, there should be a cut that they could not have it, and it would have immediately go to other people. So you wouldn't have billionaires with these extravagant numbers that I cannot even conceive, but it should be more equally distributed, both in countries and in individual people.
Do you consider yourself a happy person?
Yes, I am happy because I'm very grateful. I was in India. I volunteered. These were my best summers working in Africa and in India. And in India, they had this incredible practice that they had to start their day by reflecting on the best thing that happened to them on the previous day. So you had to have the highlights. And at the beginning, it was so weird to my Western perspective because we tend to focus on the negative things and we keep on whining all the time. We whine about traffic, we whine about working overload, we whine about relationships, money, da. And then you go to India, that they are poorer than you. They work much more hours than you. They live in horrible conditions. And they talk about the positive things that happened. And I think that made me more grateful with what I have.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gelly, for being here, for your wisdom, for your knowledge, and for what you do. I really appreciate it. And thank you also for watching, and follow us for more. Thank you.